Appreciate everybody being here today. It's obviously a big week for our program out here on Green Tree Practice Field. Have not started the season the way we wanted to. Haven't played to our expectation the first 3 games. We've got the ability now to analyze all of our performances and get this thing looking the way that we want. It'll be highly competitive out here this week, and look forward to seeing a better version of ourselves starting next Saturday back at home. And with that, open up for questions.
Thanks, Coach. We'll start with Matt Shodell. Matt, go ahead.
Oh, hey, Manny. So I was just, curious. Obviously, we haven't talked to you since you reviewed the film and saw everything. I was curious, sort of your gut reaction off watching it. I know you've said, some of the issues like the missed tackles, the drop passes, et cetera. But, were you surprised by things you saw on the film? And if so, why do you think some of those things might have happened in the game?
Well, if I'm hearing your question correctly, I think that if there's a surprise, it's a surprise that players that miss tackles are players that have been, tackling well, the players that have tackled for a long time. Players that drop passes are players who've been dependable, have had good hands and made plays like that. It was a game where, very similar to the App State game the week before, where we had a chance to really take control of the game early on and did not do that through our own mistakes. And then once you don't do that, then you're going to be into a dogfight. It was a 3-point game going into the fourth quarter. But again, the turning the ball over 4 times while getting 0 yourself is just, you're not going to have a chance to win the football game. And I credit them. They stayed after us and found a way to make the plays at the end.
Next up, we'll go to David Lake. David, go ahead.
Coach, you said, practice will be different this week. I'm curious if you could elaborate just in what ways will practice be different? I guess, does that mean tackling is going to be happening in practice or not that much different, I guess? It's
hard to bring people to the ground during the season, especially when you've got depth issues. But you can increase the popping, we don't practice unphysically, and when you have an older and experienced team, and again, guys who have been in a lot of contests and have a ton of reps at blocking and tackling. Generally there's a certain way that you can treat that team. But there are some drills that we can do, and there are some things that we can do to get it hot out there, and that'll happen tomorrow. And because our physicality can't be in question, it just can't. And majority of our issues in terms of tackling, for example, was stopping feet on contact against a runner that was not stopping his feet on contact. And it really doesn't matter who you play. Obviously, their back is a hell of a player, but he had his cleats screwed in the ground and was turning his legs, and too often we were running to contact and not through contact, and there was a lot of the similarities in terms of blocking, running to contact instead of running through contact. We have to be a team that runs through contact. Doesn't matter who plays. I don't care who does it. It doesn't matter. I would say I can change a coverage based off DBs that are in there, but we got to find 4 guys that will set edges and get guys on the ground. And similar to us, offensively up front, offensively. We've got to find guys that seek out contact.
It seems like, you're kind of hinting at a cultural issue because it's both sides of the ball lacking physicality, right? I'm curious, do you feel like you maybe missed warning signs in this regard, in camp or in practices leading up to this game here? And have you kicked around maybe the idea of getting back to a CEO coach approach, handing off defensive play calling duties? Do you feel like that took you away from maybe potentially seeing these warning signs?
Well, let's address that 2 different ways. One, we went through training camp as hard and physical as all of our training camps. And it's hard because when you say, well, it's a culture issue, if it was a culture issue, then our defense line wouldn't have whipped their offensive line from start to finish. And again, if you look at the way that game, the way the Michigan State moved the football against us, everything was out on the edges. So it'd be hard to say, you got a football team that's not physical when you got a bunch of guys that are playing with extraordinary physicality, which I thought we did up front. That's the nature of having a big football team. It can be the actions of a few that can make it look this way for certainly everybody. I have a lot of guys that would be highly offended if they were told that they didn't play with physicality on Saturday. The issue is that I know defensively, the physicality of your defense is defined by your least physical defender, not your most physical defender. And that's what we got to find, and that's what we got to get going. So I don't think, to your point, I think if you would have watched this every day, I don't think there would have been the warning signs. We put them through a physical camp. But it's in season, and what the video says is we got to hit more, and we're going to hit more.
Next up, we'll go to Chris Stock. Chris, go
You touched on it there as maybe a change, but are there other changes you plan on making moving forward to get better results? What needs to change? You mentioned is playing time, is new players, is scheme. What kind of changes so you don't keep getting these same results?
Well, look at what we're talking about. So we've addressed the physicality part. We have to be intentional in terms of turnovers, both protecting the football and taking it away. We turned the ball over 7 times through 3 games after only turning it over 9 times a year ago. So whatever we've done in terms of ball security or ball disruption drills, we will do at an extreme different level this week. And again, you say, well, you could have done that from the beginning. These are the same drills, the same techniques, the same everything that allowed us to only turn the ball over 9 times all last season. Same drills, same techniques, whatever, that when we were number 1 in the nation in turnovers a few years ago. So but certain teams have certain needs. And the job of the coaching staff is to react to what the team is putting out on tape. So if we do these things, we have a tackling system that we believe in. It's been fundamental to us playing really good defense here. If we're not getting that done with these guys, okay, then we turn the notch up to a different level, and that's just responding to what you see. So our issues in terms of whether it's the physicality aspect, whether it is the protecting the football and taking it away aspect, or whether it is catching the football, and again, the way we drill it, be even more intentional in how we drill it, and then red zone efficiency. And these are things that, and then I believe you mentioned this, Chris. These are things that if we're going all in on, and there's no emotion involved in this is just simply is what it is and pass fail, then it has to come down to playing time, right? Because if we've invested all these reps, if you've been in our program for 4 or 5 years, okay, and have been through whether it's a tackling system or how to catch a football or how to do this, how to do whatever. And if we're still struggling at this standpoint, then you got to go on to another guy.
And just to follow up, do you believe there's a sense of urgency with your team, your coaches, yourself, to get this corrected?
That's what I felt last night. And if there are ones who are not urgent, it will be hard. They will be. I imagine they'll be exposed this week. But I suspect that we have a lot of guys. We have a lot of guys with a lot of pride. We have a lot of guys that are hurt in terms of the way we performed over the first 3 weeks. So, like I said, I'm not worried about anybody's feelings right now. I'm worried about getting it the way it's supposed to look.
Next, we'll go to Susan Miller-Degnan from the Herald. Susan, go ahead. Okay, we'll go back to Susan. We'll go to Gary Furman. Gary, go ahead.
Hey, Manny. Obviously, it's the oldest coaching cliche in the book that you treat every opponent the same. But at least amongst us, if we're honest, this week is not the same level of opponent that you guys have faced in an Alabama and a Michigan State. And obviously, you're trying to correct a lot of things here to get ready for a conference schedule. How do you balance that? How do you get, you're not going to get a true read probably on Saturday if you're really making progress in the areas that you need to make progress in. And then the other question I would say is, does this game become an opportunity to get some of the young kids into the game and see if they're going to be able to help you in conference play, specifically guys like Leonard Taylor, James Williams, Cam Kinchins, the young quarterbacks, Van Dyke and Garcia? Is this weekend a chance before you get into the fray of the conference to see if any of these guys that were part of what was perceived to be an absolutely excellent recruiting class will be able to help you this season?
Yeah, I think this will be a great weekend for that. And it's not perceived to be. It is an excellent recruiting class. And these guys are only 3 games into their college careers. So in terms of what this weekend shows, though, I think what we found, regardless of opponent, it doesn't matter who you're playing. If you're wide open on 3rd down and drop the ball, it's 4th down. And that's happened in all 3 games. It's been opponent has been irrelevant. Tackling, I mean, yes, tackling, there are some tackles that are harder than others based off of matchup and where you are in the field and space. But the how-to tackling, as I said, it's not there's no there is a way to tackle and there's a way to do it that's wrong. You know what I mean? So whether you're running your feet through contact or not running your feet through contact, whether you have your eyes up, wrapping up, all those type things, the opponent you're playing against, I mean, they have some factor in it, but our fundamentals are our fundamentals. And the physicality and the edge that you play with, I mean, yes, I mean, obviously when you talk about, comparing this team to the number one team in the country, you're dealing with two different things. But what we control is us, and we've played 3 good opponents, and there's enough on film that when we play well, we look pretty good. But there's certainly enough on film that when we don't, we can be beat by anybody. So it's our focus right now. We're not talking about opponents. We're not talking about goals. We're not talking about anything down the line. We're talking about us and getting our team to look the way that we think it should look.
And then in terms of the younger players, possibly getting the chance to play this weekend and just try to show that they can or can't contribute when the conference schedule starts a few days later.
Yeah, no, which I mentioned. Yeah, I think that's absolutely on the docket for this weekend. That's on the docket for tomorrow. You know what I mean? I mean, those guys are going to get an opportunity tomorrow, out there practicing, and we'll see if all those guys have been grooming along. I think those guys will be worth watching on Saturday for sure.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Tim Reynolds from the AP. Tim, go ahead.
Thanks, Carter. Manny, I have 2 things, and they're kind of unrelated. The first, I heard you this morning on the radio, and I know you won't know about Derricks or won't know more about Derricks until tomorrow, but what is your level of concern at this point, just based off what you do know up to now?
Well, the first thing I know is I never bet against that guy because, I mean, he was already like Willis Reed on Saturday and came back out there and did miss a snap, which I didn't think he would do. But obviously, I'm concerned for Derricks. I mean, Derricks has been, he's been through 3 physical games, so we'll see what that means. We've been repping the other 2 and continue to get those guys ready. And if those guys have to step in for Derricks this weekend, we're confident in what they're doing and kind of excited to see them out on that stage and see how they respond to that.
Yeah, the other thing I have kind of takes away from all the gloom and doom stuff, so I apologize. But I wanted to do something on, you have a 24-year-old quarterback and a 28-year-old punter, obviously, which is unusual. Every team has super seniors. Every team has older guys in locker rooms than usual this year because of the circumstance. How I know at 1 and 2 it might be difficult to ask this, but how much are you seeing your 22, 24, 28-year-old guys? How valuable can that be to 18-year-olds to kind of show them the way of how to do things at this level?
Yeah, I think there's a maturity that comes with age. You see it. Sometimes our guys that transfer in that they've already kind of been through, the beginnings of a college experience. And that can help show the younger guys the way. But older guys, the other thing with older guys is that they have to make sure to keep their, sometimes a little bit of youthful naivete and ambition isn't such a bad thing as well. We are finding out in real time all around college football what 2021 is like with much older rosters and a little bit bloated rosters. And, you got a lot of older guys that have started, that are sitting the bench now or not playing as much, and when roles change, and that's unique to team dynamics, a unique thing to this calendar year. So again, I think what's important is whether the guys that just got off the bus, young guys, or the older guys that have been around the track, going on 5, 6, 7 times, that you can't lose your sense of urgency on how you do things. And in this game, you can never be comfortable in this game.
Thanks, Manny.
Next, we'll go to Andrea Adelson. Andrea, go ahead.
Manny, I want to go back to something that you mentioned in your opening statement when you said you guys haven't played up to your potential yet. I guess the simple question is, why do you think that is?
It's hard to say, well, here's the one reason why that is, but when we have looked at the real things that we think that we can go all in on this week, I think that's why I mentioned those four deals. I think there's 4 things that we can amp up on the practice field to make us perform better, and I think that's our physicality that comes into our blocking and our tackling. That is our ability to catch a football, its ability to protect it or take it away. And that's our ability to be efficient in the red zone on both sides. I mean, those are four real measurable things that we can just put a major point of emphasis on this week and adjust our playing time to people who can win in those four different situations.
Next, we'll go back to Susan Miller-Degnan from the Herald. Susan, go ahead.
Yeah, Manny, regarding the offensive line, I know Garen told us that Ja'Kai Clark, that you guys wanted to, redshirt him. But there's other guys too. It just seems like they're struggling so much. Who are some of the players? I mean, could Ja'Kai, I know he could play 4 games and still redshirt, but could he get in there? Some of the younger ones, are they any of them ready? Lawrence Seymour, what's up with Isaiah Walker, Ryan Rodriguez? I mean, what's the formula now that, I know you've looked at it on tape. What do you see that maybe you could switch around or get better at?
Yeah, certainly a guy like Ja'Kai can factor in. He did some this past Saturday. Situations change, due to injuries. That's all a part of it. The young ones it would be a lot to ask you saw that 2 years ago, back in 2019, to put true freshmen, especially with a lot of them that were not mid-year enrollees, to put true freshmen on a football field their freshman year at offensive line. But part of it is the ones that we got in finding 5 guys that will play with physicality and 5 guys that will fight. And let me say this too, and part of that also is making sure that we're helping those guys out in terms of what they can do. It's difficult in this day and age in college football to drop back and throw the ball, a ton, which sometimes score dictates, and still protect your quarterback. It's just, because you got 5 guys, all it takes is one guy to lose a 1-1 pass rush, and then, now the quarterback's off the spot, and, another guy start to break down in their pass protection. So, I think that's part of it where we can help them, obviously continuing to find a way to be efficient in the run game, which we actually had more efficient runs, not for big yards, but then what it comes off of. So, to me, that's a global thing. Running the ball is not just about the 5 offensive linemen protecting the quarterback. It's not just about the 5 offensive linemen. That's in terms of the way we have it schemed up, the way that the people around him, the way that we're running the routes, the way the quarterback's getting the ball out, making decisions on RPOs. All those things can factor into the efficiency and how well our offensive line performs.
And Manny, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded like this morning, at least, that Jalen Rivers is likely out for this game. Is that what you foresee? I
think doubtful is what I would say right now. We left him on there, just until we get final, clarification. But until we know right now, he's, obviously Jalen's a big part of our offensive line. So
last thing is Derricks doubtful also? What would you call his status?
Is Derricks what?
Doubtful also?
I'll probably know more tomorrow. You know what I mean? I mean, he's certainly questionable.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Barry Jackson from the Herald. Barry, go ahead.
Manny, I'm sure this is a very difficult question for coaches, but if you have veteran players who you have trusted over the years, who have had multiple communication breakdowns, maybe in pass coverage or pre-snap penalties or drop passes, what's your belief philosophically about whether you bench those players to make a statement if you feel the players behind them do not give you as good a chance to win as the players who are making the mistakes?
The players behind them don't give you as good a chance to win.
Right. Like I could give you one example. Will Mallory has had several drops, but clearly he's a veteran guy who you think gives you a good chance to win. There are younger players behind him. So do you bench the starter who has made a few mistakes that have cost you, even if you feel like you're best equipped to win with that player continuing to play?
Right. I understand your question. I think there may be another answer. I think part of it might be roles changing. I think it's easier to say, hey, we're going to throw this guy in the trash and never play with him again. But certainly, if there are guys who are not performing to the standard that you expected early on. And again, what's different is, if you go through preseason camp and you have a new starter and it's guy A and guy B, right? And you choose to go with guy A, and then guy A goes into the season and he's not performing, he's not doing the things maybe he did in practice, right? And you've heard coaches say, well, guy A outperformed guy B in practice. What's been unique about this year is that there have been guys who have done it in games, and just for whatever reason, it's not happening. So they can do it. This is not just based off of like, well, they won, when you weren't watching. They won when you were watching as well. So you got to talk to that. You don't want your players to ever be tight, like they can't make a mistake. A person's going to make a mistake, but certainly the critical ones, you need your best guys. And to me, what it comes down to, Barry, is we got to make our layups. See, I think that's the part that's been the most frustrating for us with everybody in our program is, we're not making our layups. I mean, I know, a year ago, we had an issue with some contested catches down the field, and okay, I mean, those are lower percentage plays, but even some of the tackles we missed. I mean, we missed some layups. I'm sure Coach L's got a lot of shooting drills and whatnot, but I mean, guys, you're recruiting University of Miami and you're one-on-one, or you're one-on-none on a hoop. I mean, you got to lay the ball in. So, again, I think we have to, we have to continue to press those guys. We have to make them feel that competition in practice. That's what I talked about you can't be a good football player feeling comfortable. And I'm not suggesting that's their issue. So you got to continue to push the competition and bring the other guys along. But that's why the way you worded, I don't know if you'd ever put a guy in that doesn't give you a chance to win. Those other guys, they have to be functional enough as well to give you a chance to win based off of what you see on the practice field.
Thank you.
Got time for a couple more. We'll go to Kobe Price from the Sun Sentinel. Kobe, go ahead.
Thanks, Carter. Manny, kind of wants to ask you, based off how last season ended, and I guess through the 3 games from the start of this year, how would you evaluate yourself as a defensive coordinator in terms of, I guess, fixing the issues you saw at the end of last year, which obviously led to you promoting, or not promoting, but putting yourself in the position you are in the role that you're in?
Well, I mean, right now we're 1-2, and to me, the whole point of being a defense coordinator is to help us win football games. So that's one thumbs up and 2 thumbs down. That's the only stat we want to lead the nation is we want to lead it in wins. And we got to win the ones that we've got left on the schedule. So I still see things that are an improvement from where we were a year ago. I still see things that are keeping us from being the defense that we believe that we can be. I think our players see that. I believe that they sense that. And that's the never-ending battle. You know what I mean? To try to get it as good as you can get it throughout the course of the year.
And last, go to Manny Navarro from The Athletic. Manny, go ahead.
Hey, Manny. Obviously, you guys have had players let you down this year that have come through for you in the past, and it seems to me like maybe some of this could be mental type issues. I mean, yeah, I know you've had guys come in and speak to players. I think there's a sports psychologist, right, on staff. How do you sort of handle it from the mental standpoint? Because it just seems like a lot of this could be that.
We talked through that, yeah. Is there a pressing, sometimes, with guys with individual expectations, those type things. And that's the issue of a team, right? Because a team could be, if you got 100 guys, but let's say that there's, 40 to 50 that are playing a lot, that's 40 or 50 different mental psyches and mental mindsets. So it's hard. What could be affecting one guy's performance is not affecting another guy's. So I think that's our job as coaches, position coaches, coordinators, and then the support staff we have. We want to have a building where there's a lot of doors open that if a player needs to come talk, in addition to our psychologist, about what's going on, whatever it is to allow them to be at their peak performance. Because, like you say, listen, when they make a mistake, there's no one that's more disappointed than they are, right? And then they hear about it. As coaches, we can insulate ourselves from social media and those type of things. It's the world that they live in. And our guys get it hard, and it's hard because once negative thoughts get in your mind, that's easy to play on a loop. And that's where you don't want, one drop ball to become a second drop ball or one missed tackle, because now you will certainly drop every ball you think you're going to drop before you get there. If everyone's ever, stood in front of a putt, you know what I mean, a 5-foot putt. If you think you're going to miss it, you're absolutely right. And tackling, the same thing too. I've seen that with tackling before, where some guys, they get it so in their head that they're worried about missing a tackle that they're going to miss it, you know? So getting our guys to play with confidence, but that's where you got to measure it. And that's what I think is part of the design of this week is to be. This week is, in a weird way, it sounds like we're trying to ratchet the heat up to beat them down. It's really the opposite. We're trying to ratchet the heat up to know that they can survive and they can thrive in that type of chaos. And again, there's elements from all 3 games against 3 really good teams, including the best team in the country, where our guys are doing that, where our guys are tackling it, making hard catches over the middle. You know, I mean, Harley made a great catch over the middle on Bama. You know, I mean, so it's not like they can't do it. You know, but greatness is being consistently good, and I think that's the issue with our football team. We have played 3 teams, okay, that are all, you know, good college football teams, right? And we've lost 2 of them because of our consistency of overperformance, right? And that's what I have to accept is my responsibility to get a team to play consistently for all 4 quarters. You know, we have been in 2 games that, in my mind, that we were about to take, you know, a very firm control of in the first half. And then by not doing that, we gave ourselves a chance to get into some fourth quarter dogfights. One we were able to pull out, and one we weren't. And the reason why we weren't is because we turned the ball over in a 3-play game with the ball, and we turned the ball over and give them a short field in the red zone, and then let them score in a 3rd down and long. So, you know, what turned into a very close game turned into a, you know, different, and we can play the what if game in App State. They dropped this pass out of this, whatever. But that, bottom line, that's what happens when you get into, you know, it's like basketball. You get into tight games down the stretch. The ball may go in, the ball doesn't go in. So our performance, that's why we don't talk about opponent. We're not worried about these guys anymore. We're worried about our performance and the things that we can control. And, you know, and that's what our guys will be focused on this week.